What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Connor on chain. So let's pull up a bunch of different things right now. Bitcoin market itself, everything is looking very shaky, very questionable right now. So I just want to give another update across the board. Things happening in the market with some altcoins and give you guys just more of my thoughts as of right now, because like I said, things are not looking great. Doesn't mean things cannot bounce, reverse, and start flying again sooner than later, but let's take a look at some stuff. So Bitcoin here, guys, I personally have not been liking the structure. Even after this dip, you know, which that was the biggest liquidation in a long fucking time, if not history in crypto. But the structure that has lied and come down after the fact is what is getting me more so worried than anything else. And it's not even like ETH. I actually think ETH still looks pretty good here. In a way, it is kind of just consolidating to the downside, but same thing. Doesn't mean that it cannot eventually just flip and start going back up. Structurally, it looks better. But over the last day or two, when Bitcoin had this huge push yesterday morning into this heavy, heavy downside wick, this to me is signaling continued potential downside. I'm not saying that we're just over. I'm not saying we're just going to nuke, over the next 2 days down to, sub 100K. But at a time like this, there's zero telling exactly, is Bitcoin just going to start running back up, or is it just going to go straight down? But in my opinion, because of the way structure looks, I would think that we are going to consolidate and chop, potentially going down a little bit. So keep this in mind. My bias right now is very neutral, but I actually think chart wise, because of what it's showing me, it does not look as bullish as I'd want it to. So we definitely could go lower. Worst case, we do come to like maybe 103, 104 again, kind of bounce, and then maybe worst case, if we cannot hold after another attempt down here, then yes, we are likely going to come down a lot harder from here. But that's just what I'm looking at, guys. And literally every single day in this market, different things happen. We have, a lot of different stuff coming up over the next few days, even a week plus in the market that could push things again. So keep this in mind. Just be very cautious, of course, like I say all the time now, in the market right now, because I've never felt like more of a time where price really could just go in any direction. At certain areas, we would be like, okay, well, it doesn't matter. We're on a little dip. We're going to continue to go higher. We're going to keep going higher. But as of now, it is just very questionable. Even with it sitting on legitimate support, like a multi-month support. Actually, what is this? Most of 2025? Yeah, a literal, 8, 9, 10 month support right here. But yeah, I mean, structure, like I said, it's not showing signs that it wants to bounce yet, and that's what I'm looking for. So keep this in mind. And like I said, ETH I think looks a lot better, but of course, ETH, Sol, everything is gonna follow Bitcoin right now. And at the end of the day, though, too, I'm not looking at it as the worst thing in the world. Yes, we are gonna continue to chop and go sideways for a bit. But at the end of the day, if we're going to continue Bitcoin dominance, it has actually just been in an uptrend for a while. Initially here, I thought we had to kind of reject. We had 2 times where at this point here, I was like, all right, if it does not reject and start dumping here, dominance is probably going to continue. And then obviously liquidation event, rip that up. But it's been trending up for a little while here, which again, I don't think is the worst thing in the world. If anything, that's giving way for Bitcoin to attempt to push a little bit higher. But as you can see in the market, guys, potentially just a lot of weakness across the board right now. Even with gold at all-time highs, a week ago, people fucking lining up to buy gold in person, like everywhere. That is nuts to me. Because someone like me, I've been in the market for so long, and I assume many of you as well, like because you're so tapped into this stuff, you'd look at that. Like if you look at that, people lined up on the street and you would say, yo, what the fuck are all of these people doing? Like there's no way they're literally doing that to buy gold at the Pico top. Like everyone here, we know better. but it is just so interesting because 90, I don't want to give a number actually. I was going to say like 90% of people, just people that are not in the market, they don't have their emotions trained nor to understand how that stuff works. You see that and it's just like like what are people doing, you know? I don't know, crazy to me, but regardless, I put out a tweet yesterday talking about like I was just in disbelief that people are doing that. I don't know. The absolute it looks like the Pico top of gold. Um, but anyways, with altcoins, guys, the main coin that I've been continuing to watch slowly accumulate is still BitTensor. We've kind of just been chopping here. I would not say this is the cleanest structure. We could easily be coming down more. Chopping, doing whatever the fuck it wants to do. Before we'd actually see this go up, same thing though. We're going to need Bitcoin to have more clarity with its direction. That is the main reason why I've been kind of just not doing too much in the market lately. But mainly BitTensor, just slowly, very slowly, just continuing to stack. Even Pump Fund down here does look pretty good. I do have TPs because I'm in a trade on it. But it is was a position on mine, like a heavy position, but reduced a lot of that. And for a little while now, just been holding trade. I do think that Pump, same thing, as long as we're not going to zero. Pump Fund will probably come back once the market gets hot again. I feel like memes eventually too are just primed to finally catch a bid. Hyperliquid, I'm not in this, but I do want to see this dip a little bit more. And as you guys know too, Zora is still one of my top favorite coins as far as conviction wise in the market. I do think, look at these wicks. This has had like a week straight of just attempting to break. So, in my opinion, this easily will come down, especially with unlocks. Huge controversy I've seen on Zora unlocks, guys. I made a YouTube video. I'll actually link it above. It was talking about I talked about the Zora thesis probably a couple months before it actually popped off, like down here. Back then, it was saying that the first unlocks were going to be October 22nd, which is actually today. But as of now, if you look on something like CryptoRank, it's saying October 30th is the unlock. So to me, it seems like there is no single platform that has that data correct. Bottom line, the only thing you need to know is that yes, an unlock for Zora, somewhat hefty unlock, is going to happen. I don't care if it's today or next week. That's all you gotta know. An unlock is happening at some point. You don't have to try to time it. Zora's not gonna dump 30% the second the unlock hits. Like, at least I'd hope not, but that's all you gotta know for it. I assume this is probably gonna dip back into this general range. Maybe 0.06, 0.07. But again, coming down to Bitcoin, ETH, Sol, whatever these big boys want to do. But like I said, this structure to me just does not look good here. Very bearish. But again, doesn't mean that this can't just show more strength, start bouncing, start looking better. And at the same time, right, it could always just continue down. My bias, if anything, is I think if it can't bounce, show strength in the shorter term, this is likely going to continue and show weakness. But eventually, once that weakness gives out, then I think we're going to see a really good bounce on Bitcoin. So for now, just be patient. Stack maybe one coin, a couple coins you have a lot of conviction in, and just wait and just be patient. So let's bring out a couple other things. But this is kind of what I was saying too. Like, shout out to DJ and Ape. I've been following him for a while. We both, I remember over the last year or two, we both are heavy looking at, projects on ETH mainnet. Almost like the new microcap gems that were popping up late 2023, 2024, and then also this year on and off. But gold rotation of Bitcoin, as expected, Bitcoin pumps too fast. This was yesterday. Obviously, that move was retraced yesterday. But bottom line, yeah, definitely a lot of manipulation with the orange man, doing this every single day. I feel like it's like every week he's talking about something else. Another major thing that has happened has actually been Limitless. So we got CJ here, the founder of Limitless, which is a prediction market platform. I've actually talked about it a couple of times in the last probably 2 weeks. They have ended up, it's what it seems like is the Limitless founder just admitted to trading their own token after its stealth launched. So here is the chart. So initially, um, yeah, so Limitless dropped. I personally, I don't know exactly what time or what day it was going to launch initially, but it seems like it kind of just came out, today. What's interesting though is they put out a tweet talking about all of their potential tokenomics and unlocks, and I tweeted about it as well. And I was like, all right, this looks like it might cook. Basically, everything has a 6 month cliff to it. Basically, that means there's gonna be nobody selling anything day one, aside from like the Kaido pre-sale, which is only I think 1 to 2% of the total supply. Which that to me didn't make sense because if that was 200x oversubscribed, there's no way that's just 1% of the supply right there. It's all the unlocks for the airdrop for the pre-sale that they had. But regardless, um, they kind of claimed that the team VC tokens had a cliff; they weren't going to be unlocked, and we got the founder just potentially, from my research looking at some of these addresses, it seems like this is kind of true. They dumped a ton of tokens, literally the first literal hour, and that's crazy to me. So I thought this would actually bring a lot more hype and another spark back into the prediction market meta, potentially giving the opportunity for another runner, in the market, even when sentiment is this down bad. But I think that really kind of killed any momentum that not only Limitless had, but I think just overall for this little meta right here for prediction markets, kind of just slowed it down for a minute because now people are like, okay, well, maybe this was one that we wanted to get in. Now we got to wait for Poly Market to drop, which I think that is still going to be like the number one coin regardless, but that was just sad to see this happening. Even if it isn't true, it doesn't end up being true. Like maybe it really wasn't the team. Still, everything about this situation right now kind of just really took down this project. And to me, I don't even want to look at it. I just, you know, already lost interest in it. Even if it does decide to move in the future, maybe we'll come back to it. But for now, like to me, that kind of threw me off a lot, especially with this dude CJ just crashing out like crazy on Twitter. Let's see if he has any posts. Um, yeah, I don't know. I saw like a tweet. He's just swearing at people on Twitter. It's actually kind of funny. But who knows? We'll come back to it. But that was kind of crazy to see because, like I said, I had a lot of at least hope for that. But I almost forgot what kind of market we're in right now. The wild west of scams. So I don't know what I'm thinking. On other news, though, we got ChatGPT dropping their new browser. This is something interesting because, um, something like agentic browsers is something I don't really see people talking about or really thinking about, and I think that could be at least for a lot of whether it's AI agents, anything revolving in that realm. Agentic browsers, meaning browsers that you can. I mean, I'll give you guys an example that I found. There's Strawberry, I think Strawberry browser, and there was one. I don't know if it was Donut browser was another one. But bottom line, it's kind of like a browser where you can open it up, you type into the search bar what you want to do, and it can actually do or play out certain functionalities for you. The browser itself will do that. There are AI agents right now that can kind of do things similar like that, but as far as having like your entire browser being able to, operate real full functionality in certain ways for you, I think it is very innovative, and I think that's going to be just it'll probably continue to